Welcome, councillors. At 7:04, I declare the May meeting open. By way of attendance, we have full house other than Councillor West, who I believe was attempting to be here this evening.
Yes, I had a reception correspondent saying that he's coming in, so.
He may run a little late and may join us as the meeting progresses. All right, item 2, public question time, and 2.1, responses to previous questions taken on notice. We have nil and no public in the gallery, so 2.2 is been and gone. Item 3, applications for leave of absence. The June meeting, no. Petitions, deputations, item 4, we have nil. Okay, disclosure of financial and disclosure of interest at least, and the CEO has disclosed an interest in item 12.1. There are no other disclosures of interest. Item 6, previous meeting minutes and a recommendation. Cardinals Lamb. Item 6.1, recommendation that the unconfirmed minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held Tuesday 22nd of April 2025 be confirmed. Councillor O'Brien has moved. Do I have a second? Councillor Ball. Any questions of those minutes? Is there any dissent on the motion? I shall take that as Councillor West.
How are you?
Entering the chambers. I'll give you a second to catch up. Minutes of the previous meeting, Councillor West.
Okay, just give me a right. Mr. President, may I ask a question?
Of the previous meeting minutes?
What's that?
Of the previous meeting minutes, you're asking a question on?
Have you gone past the leave of absence?
Yes, but we can revisit.
Thank
We'll
you.
just deal with the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held 22nd of April. I have a mover and a seconder. And if there's no dissent, I'll declare that carried 7-0. Now, Councillor West, you wish to return to applications for leave of absence, item 3.
Yes, please, yeah, for the next 2 meetings.
It's 2 meetings.
Yep.
June and July.
At this point in time,
Okay.
I may have exams in Perth, but if something comes up here, then I'll be here.
Okay. There's a request, moving Councillor Chilcott. Councillor West be afforded leave of absence for the June and July meetings. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Longmuir. Any dissent? Carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Announcements by the President? No. Reports? Okay, 8.1.1, the monthly financial report for the month of April. There's a recommendation that council receive the report. Councillor Chilcott moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kilpatrick. Manager of Finance, is there anything you need to flesh out?
No, thank you.
No? Okay, questions to the Manager of Finance? You're all looking down. Yes?
I will just ask a question without notice, I'm sorry. Just the capital acquisitions, they seem to be fairly low. There's a few to be few items expended. Are they probably likely to be expended for this month at all?
It's April, I guess.
Yeah, sorry, it was a tricky question without notice.
No,
Sorry.
I'll be
I'm
right
happy.
if I can find the page that I want.
You have the page number, Councillor?
Well, just in the capital acquisition,
Yeah.
I just looked at the graph and then I went back and looked through and just tried to work out what was the difference. And I think it was probably a tank and a few items that sort of brought that number up. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to take,
If you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's
I'll
fine.
take it on notice and
Any further questions of the financial report? If not, is there any dissent on the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried 7-0. I'd ask Councillor West what my next page would be, but
52.
thank you. Schedule of payments 8.1.2, payments for the month of April. There's a recommendation that council receive the accounts payment. Councillor Ball has moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Longmuir. Thank you. Any questions again of the accounts for payment? Being none, is there any dissent on the motion? Shall declare that carried 7-0. Item 8.1.3 on page 57, CEO's activity report, and there's a recommendation that council notes the report. Councillor Ball has moved. Councillor Chilcott seconds. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Anything you wish to expand upon?
There might be just one thing that has occurred in the last 24 hours, which I'd like to know if I cancel that, and that is the progress on the Bowls Club lights. So the entity that was going to be doing the lights visited the Shire yesterday and advised there had been some delays in the commencement of that project, owing initially to delays in transportation from some overseas materials. They have then identified that there's probably going to be some additional works required and some asbestos and things like that. In the first instance, I've contacted the Department of Sport, who quite graciously have awarded the Shire a deferral to enable the grant funds to be expended by August of this calendar year, so 2-month extension. And in part, I think Samantha from the our local sport department person sort of reflected. I actually asked which contractor we were using and wasn't surprised when we had delays. I think it's a number of life projects that person's got and has maybe got themselves a bit busy. So that's the good news. In respect to the further costs, that's going to be a dialogue that we have with the Bowls Club. I think that the quotes were obtained by the Bowls Club for a Bowls Club building, and they did the estimates of costs. So in the first instance, I'm hoping that the Bowls Club might agree to meet the additional costs, but we'll see how that plays out.
Okay.
And I must say, I don't actually have any idea of what the additional costs were. The gentleman was just explaining the difficulties associated with moving some wiring through a roof because of the purpose of asbestos. It may be a negligible cost increase, it may be significant, I'm not sure.
Okay. Councillor Ball?
Mr. CEO, the Balladong Aboriginal Corporation you'd spoken to, I just sparked my interest that you'd raised the issue of industrial land with them. Could you flesh that out a little bit, please?
Yeah, absolutely. This is very much linked to the CBH areas. So there's, because we're aware there are a number of parcels of land that have been flagged for transfer that CBH would like to acquire. Indeed, I was reading some minutes from 2014 where it is new, old is new again, where CBH was attempting to have some roads closed, but couldn't close the roads because of the South West Native Title arrangements. Essentially, in this opening sort of discussion with Balladong was the idea of potentially they may be willing to relinquish that land in exchange for some other land. One of the pieces of land that I think is worthy of a conversation with council at some stage is the reserve, the old reserve, which is actually vested in the Shire for the purposes of recreation, but would not be a site that we would be developing, I don't think in any way, shape or form, but it's probably a site of some cultural significance. An opening discussion about those sort of things, I think, is a positive way forward. It was raised in our discussions with CBH, in the sense that CBH is still interested in acquiring that land, is still interested in having those roads closed and have exclusive access to that entire portion of the industrial area. And the representative from Belladonna was very, very open to those conversations. It was really a fantastic opportunity, by coincidence moment.
Those 3 blocks, I think, south of CSPP are plumb as well. That industrial land's short around the place, and seems to be some land banking going on, people buying the stuff and not doing anything much.
Essentially, yeah.
So
Yeah.
they'd be interested to see if that conversation could continue.
Absolutely, yeah. I've contacted their land person. The organisation is ramping up, and it was tremendous to see them out engaging with our community, and really did appreciate Charlie literally waving me down as I was walking through the ramp park to introduce me to him.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Further questions? Just a quick one from me, Mr. CEO, with regards to the AI readiness. Is that about cyber security, or is it about using AI in a positive scheme?
Yeah, we had an initial meeting with the other participating local governments. Many of them are large. I think Angara is probably the smallest other local government, but the likes of Stirling and the local are involved as well.
Yeah.
Bulk is putting a lot of energy into this particular project. There's a lot of consultants involved. There's multi-steps in what they're producing. It's going to cover both. So it is very much looking at the opportunities as well as the risks. We are, for larger councils particularly, a direct customer service is just something that AI could be assisting with in terms of triaging, reports about maintenance issues and the like. That's less relevant for a council of our scale, where we tend to have a more personal touch and less of those things. Certainly, cybersecurity is a key element of what they're engaging with as well, and they're keen to speak with the IT professionals in each of the local governments, and in our case, obviously we'll be relying on some to the degree with the support of our contracted supplier.
Okay. Anything further, councillors? If not, I have received a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Is there any dissent? If not, I shall declare that carried, absolutely. And somewhere I will move on.
It's 75, I think.
75, yes. Oh, okay. Important one, 8.1.4 on page 75, the consideration of the joint local planning strategy. Quite a body of work that we've been going through, Mr. CEO. Anything you need to add before we put it to the members?
I would observe that the Shire of West Arthur held their meeting earlier this week, last week, and endorsed the strategy. Williams, the strategy does not appear on their main agenda, and I have queried that with their CEO. I just believe that actually they ran into the wave of development assessment panel items related to several solar batteries projects, which may have resulted in it not appearing in it. But yeah, we've been working very, very closely with the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage on this one. There's been a lot of conversations at an office level with the department to reach the point that we are at. This journey is sort of revealed to the extent that a joint planning strategy is perhaps not owned by the local government as much as it is. You put in what you can, and then the Planning Commission will approve what it approves. and perhaps it's not as utopian as I would like it to be. But I think that this document is I believe the Shire is better off having this document than not.
Okay. All right, recommendation, councillors, how do you wish to deal? You moving as written, councillor Ball? Thank you. Councillor Kilpatrick, seconds. All right, councillors, any queries? You have seen this document before, it's largely unchanged from last time it was before us, Mr CEO.
Yeah, there's been some tinkering through the submission process. No public submissions received, but each of the local government departments finessed some words. But in terms of the key elements of where industrial land is going to be for design of future residential land, all those things have remained and are consistent with the Department of Planning's position.
Right. Okay, thank you. All right, councillors, is there any dissent on the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? And against? Carried 7-0.
245 or
Oh, that far out.
yeah.
It's a lot of work, that.
Yes, absolutely.
Took a bit to chew through.
What driverless tractors are for. Okay, 245, item 8.2, and in particular 8.2.1, there's a recommendation the council notes the Deputy CEO's report. Councillor prepared to move. Thank you, Councillor Chilcott. Second, Councillor Kilpatrick. Mr Deputy, anything you wish to add?
No, I don't think so, thanks, Mr President. So nothing really has happened in relation to most of those items.
Okay, questions, Mr Deputy, of that report? Or outside that report? Bart's birthday went pretty well, I believe.
Yeah.
Good little crowd turned up through the event.
Yes, other than a couple of food trucks, but
Yeah,
the one food, well, the main food truck wasn't complaining.
had a good day, I would think, yeah. All right, there being no questions, no dissent on, Councillor
One
West?
question. Have we received any, tenders don't close till 6th of June for the swimming pool manager?
Yep.
I see Wickerman's after one as well.
Right, okay, yeah, no, we won't be looking at tenders until it closes. Mr. President.
Can I ask another question there? I just noticed in the checks for payment there about the, cost us $52,000 to have a contractor in for the swimming pool, is that correct?
I figure it was, I don't think it was quite that figure, but it was up there.
Well,
It
over the,
may have been a little bit more.
could be
Okay.
at least that,
Yeah.
yeah, for the whole sort of 6 months.
Oh, okay, that's for the whole-
Or seven
Yeah,
months,
the
yeah.
52,000 was the majority of it, and there were a couple of other smaller payments of a few thousand, but the 52 was the majority for the season.
And they come every 2 weeks over winter as well. They're contracted to do the shutdown and the winterisation, so they're here every 2 weeks to keep an eye on things, make sure that, you know, things don't get too far out of whack.
Right. Good. All right, thank you. There being no further questions, has been moved and seconded. Is there any dissent? Declare that carried 7-0. Okay, item 8.4. 8.3 being the finance manager's report, still there, but we've already done that. 8.4.1, manager of works activity report. There's a recommendation that we note the manager's report. Councillor Ball has moved. I'll second the report from the chair. The manager is not with us, on leave, I believe, Mr CEO. Is there anything you wish to expand upon of his report?
It's rather tempting for me to try and do my best Alan impersonation, but I won't. prepared for that, but I'm happy to take any questions. The team is doing a very, very good job in Alan's absence. We've had some I guess unfortunate health dramas for some of the workers down there, or workers' partners, which has further decreased the manpower down there, which is a theme that we're constantly having in that area. But the works crew is doing a fantastic job in the absence of a couple of key people, and certainly I acknowledge that very recently their assistance with the Bart's birthday was fantastic. There was some Parks and Gardens team who have done a really good job with some mulching in town that made the Parks and Gardens look really, really good. The footy oval is looking incredible, and we were able to step in and assist the footy club host some games when West Arthur's Oval was not up to snuff, which was great. And the approach program, the curbing is just about done. So, yeah.
Good report, Mr Manager Works, you've got a job here. Councillor West?
Yeah, Mr. Brent, through the chair to the CEO there. Look, I've had, I notice you're filling in tonight there, but I've had a request to doing something about Nelson Road. It's very, very narrow, and I think it's extremely difficult for two trucks to pass, even two vehicles on there. And maybe could I request to substantiate some a way forward? Is it worth putting a counter on to see what traffic is on there?
That would be certainly the first port of call, and I can absolutely get that as part of our investigations. And we'll take it as a question on notice for how many cars are going along, or vehicles going along Nelson Road.
Yeah. All right, yep, thanks Councillor West. You can do that. Another question?
I do have another question. Previous afternoon, I did ring the CEO on another issue, and that is a large hole at the Gull service station on the Narrogin Road, and I don't know whether he has any clarification on.
I believe he has.
Okay, thank you.
CEO?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, so I actually just distribute this around in the first instance.
Sure.
So we're referring to the road up to Narrogin next to the Caltex, and essentially in the crossover area there is a very large hole. Now I've got a photo here. This photo was actually from Street View in 2023. So the hole has actually been there for quite some time, and it's obviously getting larger. I've had an opportunity to speak with Main Roads regarding the matter to clarify my own mind about areas of responsibility in this regard. So both Main Roads and local government's legislative framework and policy provide that the responsibility of local government and Main Roads is in the establishment of a suitable crossover and the approval of an appropriate crossover, the maintenance of a crossover, which is the area in the road reserve that links a property to the private property, is the responsibility of the landowner. So the responsibility for that crossover lies with the property owner, being the Caltex service station. The local government does have power under the local government uniform local law regulations to compel a property owner to do repairs to a crossover. The regulations don't state the criteria that you would require them to, no reasons why you would require them to, but safety might be a reasonable one. If there are complaints regarding that and the community members believe that is unsafe, I would advise council to direct those to the administration, and we can do a risk assessment and determine whether a reasonable bar is being met that we would be asking the property owner to undertake works, or whether it is in their plans to correct it, because it is, of course, affecting their customers. All right.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillor West?
So moving forward there, so can we make a request to the property owner to just put a load of gravel in there or something?
I think if we were to approach the property owner, we would merely say to them, there's been identified there's an issue. It's up to them to rectify it.
That's right, and Main Roads did specify that any works in that crossover would actually require Main Roads approval. Now, to the degree in which Main Roads is going to even know that there was works done, it's the same. But that is what the statute says.
Right. Okay. So, Mr. CEO, it's an area of administration really that you could liaise with, I assume, the owners?
Very easily, yes.
And discuss with them that it is Main Roads road, they need to
Yeah,
be in contact with Main Roads about anything they do there.
in the first instance, when getting my brekkie wrap in the morning, I may check with them about whether they have any plans for the giant pothole in the
Right.
crossover.
Okay. Satisfied with that, Councillor West, at this
On
time?
that particular one, I am, yeah. May I ask a further question,
Sure.
if you want me to? Okay. Through the chair, of course, Mr. CEO, is I've brought up several times about tidying up the entrances into town, you know, e.g. the Katanning Road, maybe this road and that road. And the reason I'm bringing this up is today I travelled along the Coolin-Corrigan Road. I would suggest you take a drive where the manager works and go and have a look. I've never seen such an immaculate job done with these mulches. Is that road a main road? If it is, could we contact the Condon Shire Council, find out what they're doing about it? And why can't we do something like get these guys in? It's just like a carpet for about 5 metres either side of the bitumen. It is just magnificent.
Which,
And this is
which
on a
town
back
are we
road.
referring to?
Between
With
Coolin
that?
and Condinnon.
Which town? What, the whole journey?
It was between Coolin and Condinnon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole-
No, Coolin-Corrigan.
Oh, Coolin and
Cruel
Condinnon.
Corrigan. They've got 2 mulches there, and it's just like a
The whole
carpet.
length of that road?
Yeah.
Hang on. You
Could-
just mean the
could-
entrance to
Why
town.
can't we get something done like that? Can we find out about it?
Well, it's not a main road, be my first guesstimate, where all our entrances to town are main roads.
You don't think it's a main road?
No?
It's a main link to Coolin from
I think
Corrigan.
it's Fence Road, which is all, Councillor Ball, you're on regional road groups, or local government road?
I couldn't say.
No, I'm not sure either. Anyway, Mr. CEO has written some notes down, he will contact them and discuss.
Good, thank you.
Just to elaborate there, I think that one of the papers, actually I was literally drafting this afternoon, related to the CBP action identified in ways of maintenance and upgrades to parks and townscapes and the like. I've had some discussions with the guys in the gardening crew about the additional resource and investment that would be required to move from maintenance to an upgrade relationship. We have been in a maintenance phase for quite some time in the Shire. There are some parks and gardens that look immaculate. There are some that don't. There are some attempts at improvements that haven't worked. The trees on Belgian Street never took. There are other investments that we've made, like the town square, the garden in front of the Berry Terry, that look brilliant. And so I challenge the guys there to have a think about how we move from there. They've responded to that challenge. They come back with some suggestions, some plans, some ideas and some costings. And in the coming months, I'm really looking forward to presenting those to council. With some ideas about moving from a maintenance mentality to a systematic, sensible, ordered improvement phase. Now, I think that where we start, and where entry points fit within that is a discussion to have, and the discussions I've had have included some upgrades to entry points. Entry points are a little bit more tricky because of reticulation and water and things like that, but they're in that program. They're in the listing that the teams in Parks and Gardens have drafted together. So I understand it's incremental. Again, I'm reviewing some minutes from 2014 and getting a feeling that these are discussions that happen, like Haley's comment, from time to time. But now is the time to, I think, to make forward those. I understand the business now, and we can actually make some progress in these things.
All right, fair answer.
Thank you.
We can then move on. We are dealing with the Works Manager's report in his absence. If there's no further questions to that report. Has been moved and seconded. Is there any dissent on that motion? Not, I shall declare it carried 7-0. Okay, we'll move on. Item 9. And we have one item of motions previously been given as an attachment, 2 attachments at least. Notice a motion from Councillor West, 9.1. You moving, Councillor West?
I'll move it, yep.
Okay, Councillor West has moved. You're seconding the motion, Councillor O'Brien? Okay, thank you. Mr CEO, is there anything you wish to add, first of all?
No, I don't.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there any dissent on this motion? There is. Councillor West, your motion. Do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to speak to the motion. I've been a councillor for a number of years now, and we had several committees in the early days there because we had a lot of councillors, and the job was shared around a fair bit. Now we're down to 7 councillors done by the local government, so to speak, to reduce our numbers. And so the councillors now is almost on every committee. So I don't think there's only a couple. But what I'm really on about is the future of the Shire, and that is that, Mr. President, you can't run this Shire unless you have some good councillors here. And it doesn't matter whether you like it or not, and that's a fact. And we've got an election coming up this year, and as you well know, yourself and I are only here because we never had any nominations 2 years ago. So you wonder the difference. Why aren't we getting nominations? You know, there's only 7 of us now. When I first started, there was 13 of us, well, 13 or 11 of us. Now we're down to 7. And we, over the last 16 years I've been on it, we've nearly always struggled to get nominations unless we go out and hand-pick a few. And on that note there, we also, this year, since we've got 7 councillors, we've also introduced forums. Now, we don't get a remuneration from the forums because the local government allowance tribunal doesn't allow to be remunerated for forums or any such thing. And I think it's about time that, you know, moving forward and being progressive, and I think it's about time that we did look at our pay structure, and we have a salary, an allowance which is fully approved by the tribunal, that we can either have a sitting fee or we have an allowance. And along those lines is, to give you an idea, I called into the Lake Grace Shire the other day, which is on the same tier as us, and their councillors get nearly $700 a month. And it's okay for you, Mr. President, because you're on a bit over $20,000 a year, which you should well be. The Shire President in Lake Grace is on the sum of $30,000 a year, and a councillor is on the sum of $8,000 a year. So it's a significant difference. But the proposal means that at the moment our sitting allowance is structured, I think it's 75 or 78% of the allowable allowance. In the new proposal moving forward, that allowance drops down considerably, but we move on to a salary. It's not the total package of expenditure, it's only the little increase. And I think it's about time that we looked at this, and in particular, and it's been a point of mine all the time, is in your situation, you're very fortunate that you're a farmer and you can manipulate time. As past our Deputy President sitting here and our current Deputy President sitting over here, they have the power to manipulate a little time to go to zone meetings and so forth. If we take these positions out of the equation and we look at the likes of maybe Councillor Longmuir and Councillor Chilcott, etc., they can't do that and unless they took a leave without pay, so to speak. And moving forward, you're not going to be in that chair forever. We need to facilitate someone that can do your job, because what it boils down to is you do a lot of work that we don't see, and whether it can be maintained in the future, I don't know. But it's not a huge lot of money, and I think it's reflecting on the quality of councillors, and I think we need to move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor West. Councillor O'Brien seconded the motion. You wish to speak to the motion?
Just pretty much agree with Councillor West. It is hard to be available to attend meetings during the day due to my work commitments, as same with Councillor Chilcott and Councillor Longmuir. Sorry, Wade.
No problem.
And yeah, so it is really difficult, and I do find that sometimes I'm not able to even attend some meetings in the evening due to work commitments, or if I'm away and I have to take, exactly as Councillor West said, leave without pay. So I think it would be in the benefit of the Shire of Wagen to increase our remuneration.
Okay. Speakers against, Councillor Paul.
The very eloquent Councillor West, I must congratulate you on your presentation, that I don't necessarily agree. I think there is a component of public service involved in being a councillor, and while there are some sacrifices, I know it's difficult even from a farming point of view when you're busy to put enough thinking time in. There are a couple of bits I don't agree with there about the fixed fee for a councillor. There are, without, it's not a great issue, but when a councillor has a leave of absence for 4 meetings a year or whatnot, and gets the same fee as the rest, doesn't pass the pub test for me. I think that the size of the increase, which is about almost 50% on last year's, or this current year at least, we had an increase 2 years ago. I just wonder how that might well be viewed in the general public, that size of increase. I agree that I don't think anybody in the room is being paid enough, if you on a per hourly basis. But and especially I know the work the President puts in, that I couldn't put a figure on what the hourly rate would give him a year. It would be $100,000 or so, if not more. So it's the public service aspect of being a councillor is where I'm coming from, and the size of the increase is why I'm speaking against.
Okay, thank you. Speakers for the motion. Mr. Chilcott?
I heard exactly what Councillor West said, and I heard exactly what Councillor O'Brien said in their motion for. I also understand where Councillor Hall is coming from as well. My thoughts are here that whilst I sit in this room and attend council as a councillor in the meeting form, I'm still always a councillor when I'm out in the street as well. I represent council in many ways. quite often when I'm working in the refund depot, for example, people come in and ask me council questions, because it's a great place. You see, oh, you're a councillor, can you answer this? Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. I'm always representing council, and I do support the full motion.
Okay, thank you. Good points, well made. Speakers against? Councillor Kilpatrick.
Yeah. Oh, look, I agree with all, I think they're all strong arguments everywhere. I've always been uncomfortable accepting pay, I do. I've always, yeah, but I do. The size of the increase is probably where I'm probably stuck on. It's a big increase. I think Councillor Ball said 50%, that sounds about right. So yeah, that's where it's a big increase, and it's a tricky one, I understand. And I probably agree with Councillor Ball with the public service, and I think there's a lot of people in the town that provide spend a lot of time doing a lot of stuff, volunteer work, and probably see that to a degree here. So I'll speak against it.
All right. Speakers for the motion?
I'm not allowed to speak again, am I?
Well, you'll get one more shot at it. You don't have to choose necessarily, councillor.
I'd like to pick the bit where the president gets a lot more, and also feel quite strongly that you should only get paid when you attend. And my hourly rate is quite high because I don't do the work that you all do, and so I couldn't in good faith accept it. But I do agree that those that, especially the president and the deputy at the moment, are underpaid. But I couldn't support it as it's written there.
Okay. All right, that's being the full room. In closing, Councillor West.
Yeah, look. As in the motion here, we're certainly on. The tribunal said, or whatever that's called, is we're allowed to have a salaries and allowance thing there. And when you look at it there, we're looking at 28% of what we're allowed. It's not a very big figure, but I've been driving it for a long time, especially in your position and in this case the deputy's position. In the past, yourself and Councillor Ball, you've run a very good show, and it needs to continue. But looking forward is, it's to attract people. I don't know. There's been an argument is you only get paid on when you attend meetings. Look, I've raced back today. I unfortunately a change of plans and I couldn't quite get here. But as you have always said, Mr. President, once you're a councillor, doesn't matter where you go, you are always representing Shire Council. You walk down the street, I get that many people come and say, what can you do about this? What can you do about that? I either talk to you about it, or I come and see the CEO about it. I certainly don't just, when I first got on council, what's council involved with? It is to answer yes or no on the agenda in front of you. If that's the case, I don't want to be here. I'm here to hopefully make this town better, and better. It's better when I left it than when I started. That's my object of it. That's why I go around. That's why I brought up another item earlier on there. I do a lot of travelling. I bring a lot of ideas here, and to try and better this council. So look, and we're certainly doing a lot for Councillor Ball. What was the word you used?
Which one?
Community service.
Public service, yeah, look, yeah, so it's, if I wasn't involved there, I wouldn't be sitting here for 16 years later. So, look, I've got all the heart and everything like that, and I do my utmost to do the best job I can at the time, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Closing, Councillor West. You all heard the debate. On that note, I will put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is lost 4-3. Can I add, having lost, I think, as Councillor Longmuir pointed out, there's parts of that recommendation, I think, that could have been supported by the majority, but it's quite a lengthy document and it was hard to pair out the parts that you might support and might not support. Could have been done by way of a bunch of amendments, but not easily. So I guess where I'm going with that, councillors, is parts of it could be resurrected in due course, Mr. CEO.
Absolutely. And, Mr. President, I would observe that Councillor West and I have had a number of discussions about this topic, and the office's position is very clear on this, is that elected member remuneration, as far as I'm concerned, is elected members' business. It's got nothing to do with me. I provide the information about the statutory framework. Council determines its own salary. So you will not see an item initiated by officers recommending changes to elected member remuneration. If council wishes to alter its remuneration, it is through a notice of motion,
That process.
and
Yeah.
that's the process to follow, and I will work with every councillor who comes about any notice of motion that they wish to raise, including this one.
Okay. Okay. All right, we'll move on, councillors. We have item 10, which there are questions members having given due notice, but there are none. With me, item 11, urgent business, and we do have one item of urgent business. It's unfortunate this did arrive just on the day of the agenda being published, Mr. CEO.
Just about, yeah.
So item 11.1, comment on Walga's draft community benefits and engagements guide. Do you wish to expand any further?
Really?
Not really. You've read the document, councillors. You got some explanation. I think perhaps if you want questions answered ahead of the process. No. As a recommendation, do you wish to, or how do you wish to deal?
I'm happy to move it.
Thank you. Councillor Ball has moved as written. Councillor O'Brien seconds. And I guess if I can perhaps flesh out just a little bit, this document's been quite a while in the making. Has been a fair bit of request by local governments to get some kind of a starting point that I think, as the CEO, is quite eloquently written. And I guess when I read it, I was quite dismayed that it seemed to imply that local governments had powers in this space. And we don't. We simply don't. And when you take an overview of the document with that in mind, the document has some problems. Councillor West?
My comment.
Sure.
I just see in yesterday or today that the Queensland Government have just canned an $8 billion renewable energy,
Yeah.
which was initially approved.
Yeah, look, I think the goalposts are shifting in that space, but I don't know by how far and by whom that will influence what happens in our area. But at the very least, what we're about here is getting some kind of a overall community benefit for any large transition in the area. And I think, put it succinctly, I think the document fails to help us.
It doesn't tell anything we don't already know.
No, but it assumes powers that we don't have, which is what I find perhaps disappointing. Councillor Hall, you commented on it in the email.
It caught me at a bad moment. But it implies that we've got resources to engage as well, which we haven't got the resources to carry out these tasks that they suggest that we should be engaging in, or considering at least, with no prospect of any sort of result. They should be sending that off to the state government and then coming up with a policy instead of pretending to represent our best interests. It's a nonsense.
Yeah, probably well put. All right, Councillor O'Brien, yes.
Just quickly, at the top of page 2, where
Of the document?
Of the document,
Yeah.
sorry, of our reply.
Okay, yeah.
It says here, local government cannot effectively manage large-scale renewable energy projects. Like our discussion around here has been managed, alludes to that we have the control, that we have the power to do that. I'd like to suggest that we change manage to administer, because obviously we would be trying to implement what we've been directed to, so we don't have the administration. So that's just my small...
So you're shifting the thought into after the DA has been approved as to how we then
To administer.
administer.
Yes.
Mr CEO, you understand the comment?
I do.
Hopefully I'm not too late.
No, not at all.
It's just because the word manage alludes to the fact that we have control, we have power over what we are able to do, whereas we don't.
May I make a suggestion that we might, if we use the word cannot effectively manage and administer, is the use of manage in that context was because the actual document itself says the purpose of the document is to enable local governments to manage. And therefore the suggestion is, well, because they've used the word manage, we've repeated that back, but actually no, we don't actually have the tools to, in your terms, manage. So I'd be reluctant to delete the word manage entirely, but certainly if there's additional words,
Yeah.
I think that's totally appropriate. But it's up obviously to council to...
Yeah, manage and administer. Councillor?
Yes, I'm very happy with that.
Okay. Councillor Paul, your motion.
It's only in the narrative, Mr. President.
It is in the narrative, but it's changing the narrative.
No, I'm happy with that.
You're happy? Thank you. Okay, two spots, yeah. And it was seconded by yourself, Councillor O'Brien, so you're obviously happy with that. All right, councillors, any further questions? Is there any dissent on the motion? I'm not sure that we'll get a confident response or happy response from Walter from our
Thank you. Leonard.
thank you letter, Christmas card. That's
I
it.
have received two requests, reminders that we have the opportunity to comment from Welga, which,
I received one today also, yeah.
yeah, here's what you asked for.
Okay, that's why we're here. All right, that being the case, councillors, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 7-0. Where are we from there? We do have some confidential items just to see how.
Well, we'll be stepping out for this one and asking the Deputy CEO to
Okay.
enable council to discuss the
CEO is leaving the room. And on his way out, he'll close the door.
Don't need to press any buttons.
Councillor, no, they worked out how to shift that. Moving that we close the
I am.
meeting to the public. Councillor Chilcott has moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Longmuir. Is there any dissent? Take that as carried. Chilcott? Yeah, you gotta be quick. There being no further business, I shall declare the meeting closed.